Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We saw the caretaker Prime Minister speak on economy in Karachi when he thanked all stakeholders for their contribution in getting the economy back on track. We'll be talking about, of course, the measures that have been taken by the government from bringing the dollar back from a record high of 307 to about 284 at this time, restoring investor confidence. And of course, the Special Investment Facilitation Council, the propagation of that, and further to that, of course, he also talked about this being perhaps a blueprint for the next government on how to take the economy forward. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about overall the next steps that the next government after the elections will have to continue to take to get the economy back on track. All of that today on Perspective. A little later on, we'll also be talking about the Election Commission with regard to PTI's intra-party elections and, of course, their credibility and what is being called by some as perhaps controversial. Whether they're controversial or not, we'll be talking about the legal standing overall of these elections. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Sultan Ali Haider, who's an expert on political economy. Thank you for being with us. We also have with us Dr. Khaqan Najeeb, who is former advisor to Ministry of Finance. Thank you for being with us today. Sultan Sahab, to start off with you overall, of course, like we were earlier saying, we saw the address of the caretaker Prime Minister today. I, of course, want to talk more about what the way forward is, but in terms of the measures that have been taken and in terms of where we are today versus where we were a couple of months even, how do you look at things?
So I think there's a big transition. Things were really shaky, to say the least. If we talk about 2, 3, 4 months earlier, and the currency devaluation, the devaluation ride, it was continuing, and people were speculating where will it end up. There were extreme talks in the market, maybe 400, maybe more than 400 PKR to USD. Right. Now that level of stability wasn't there. Since that wasn't there, people were not sure in terms of investing in the stock market. So all of the indicators were going really bad. And when our currency devalues, our debt repayment becomes more and more difficult. Our imports become more and more expensive. So everything is the pressure continues and continues. So now we see a sudden. You can say it's a very short time. 2-3 months is a very short time, and in this we do see this transition where we do see stability. We have seen rupee come down and it has stabilized in the range of we can say 275 to 290. So it is stable. That has given confidence. The series of steps that have been taken by the government, it has given confidence to the investors to invest in the stock market.
Right, fair enough. Let me go to Khaqan sir. Dr. Khaqan, overall, in terms of the measures that have been taken till now, we've been talking about economy for a while and how, where things were a few months down the road as to how they are today. In your opinion, how are we doing at this time?
So, Mahrukh, go back a couple of months, and what you would see is that the Pakistan markets were trading, both domestic market, the stock exchange, as well as Pakistan's external market, where our bond is trading at levels that Pakistan was, near a default scenario, and there was talk of an uncomfortable level of our reserves. The turning point, of course, was the IMF program, and early July, we enter a program. Our reserves go all the way up to $8.7 billion. Combine that with the fact that you've had the first review on 30th of September. So, alhamdulillah, things have worked well. Pakistan has met the prior conditions initially in the program, then the targets. And so you're on track to receive the $700 million sometime in January. The money is, of course, one aspect. The other aspect, of course, is that the stamp of approval of the lender, that Pakistan is on track to stay comfortable within these 9 months that we have the program. Now, secondly, I think what has happened is that you went after the smugglers, you went after the hoarders, you tried to improve the regulatory improvement in terms of the Afghan transit trade, and you also try to do de-dollarization by curbing the third market and illicit, illegitimate market. These all things haven't sorted themselves out, but at least you've signaled in the short run that you want to kind of clamp on all these things. This has meant that the gyrations in the stock market on a downward trend have been arrested. The gyrations of the rupee have been arrested. There is some stability in terms of the large scale manufacturing, which was, on a regressive path, has, shown some signs of recovery. Pakistan's agriculture seems to be on a recovery path as well. So overall, these two things combined, and then the hope that you may be able to get some monies in terms of investment into the country through the SIFC regime that you've created, whether it's in Rekudek, whether it's in agriculture sector of Pakistan, whether it's in the overall mines and minerals, ITES. So you're trying to pitch Pakistan as an investment destination. There is a sense of stability. There is a sense that things will stabilize
Dr. Khaqan,
in terms of inflation.
I'm going to interject. In terms of giving, the Prime Minister also said that one of the basic, according to him, one of the things that the caretaker government's ultimate goal, so to speak, is to provide a blueprint on which the next elected government can perhaps continue. In terms of the measures that you've said, again, in your words also, these measures are continuing. We've seen some of the results come in, but of course, they need to continue for there to be a continuous kind of gain in terms of a healthy economy that we want to see Pakistan get to eventually. So you think that, like you said, these are going to be measures that probably the next government will aim to continue?
So look, I mean, you have to stay with the IMF, complete the current standby arrangement. You have to move to another IMF program. You have to draw the broad blueprint of what that program is going to look like. I again say this, that the ownership has to rest with any country which goes into an IMF program. It is not an IMF program. It is a program of the recipient country supported by an extended fund facility of the IMF. So write your own program, design it. Let the guys come from, the US, help you with it, and so that you have a clear path moving forward. But these measures that you have taken have to, of course, continue. But, the deeper work is still in front of us, Mahrukh. It's not behind us. The privatizations have to...
We will talk about, like you said, the deeper work and, of course, the kind of reforms that we've been talking about the economy needs. But as far as the SPA is concerned and, looking at that previously, how do you think the new, the IMF is going to come up with perhaps a harder kind of line for us to take? What do you expect, in your opinion?
So I expect that on 8th of February, if you get a new setup after a few weeks. Now, 3rd February is the date for the next review that Pakistan has to do. I am not sure how this will pan out. The fund may want to do the next review with the incoming government, or the current government may be able to do it by the end of February. So let's exactly see how that pans out. I think no one's sure on that path yet. So whatever happens there, but Pakistan must make sure the targets are with us. SPA is honestly, Mahrukh, not a very, very difficult program. Pakistan should be able to. I've read the document a number of times.
Is it going to get harder or no?
I think the coming EFF would be much harder because the kind of reforms that are needed to really put the country back on track in terms of, the key sectors, whether you talk about energy, FBR, whether you talk about growth, whether you talk about privatization. We have just scratched the surface of talking about privatization, let's say, and I saw today there was an appeal in one of the courts against PI's privatization. Things are not going to be easy that way. Then the potential of the privatization commission to be able to do all this work. It is not that we just, want to privatize. We want to privatize at the right price. We want to privatize with the right measures taken so that privatization alone is not the a panacea to improve these things, but the ecosystem that you create around it. I'm just giving you this as an example because this is going to be an important reform as we move forward. EFF would be much harder. EFF would be much more structural in nature. EFF would be 3 years in the making. I seriously think Pakistan needs to put a team together which can write their own MEFP, which can deliver that MEFP, which can work, which can coordinate on all the key areas: energy, privatization,
let me come back to you, Dr. Khaqan, on that. I'll come back to you. I'm going to go to Sultan Sahab here. Ji, Sultan Sahab, as far as privatization is concerned, like Dr. Khaqan is saying, how would you rate our experience with privatization considering the past, where, of course, we've seen it with perhaps KSC? How do you look at it overall?
So overall, our track record on privatization has not been good because there were a couple of success stories. For example, PTCL, we can say that was a success story. It got privatized, it's still functioning, it's working fine. But in general, you see the whole privatization program or the concept, it started in the 1990s, early 90s, right? And the whole concept was that we have these 6 units and government is incurring loss and the government is unable to, right, focus on them and get them into profit. So the whole idea was we should get those 6 units offloaded. Over a period, what we have seen is that 6 units do not get offloaded. For example, one example is SME Bank. So SME Bank was to be privatized and there were a couple of bids, and during the time period, if I'm not mistaken, between 2015 and 2018, there were a series of negotiations. And then at the end of 2018, 2019, it was decided that the offers are so low that the government will not privatize it. It's going to divest by itself.
Okay.
So it's difficult. I have spoken to people who deal with these issues very recently, and what they say is that it's not easy because there are so many people, just like it was just mentioned, there would be people going to courts, people who are working in those organizations, they have their own interests, government has its own interests. So it's not a very easy thing to do. It's easier said than done.
Right, but of course, the path is rocky, but do you think that, once we undertake it, and then, of course, with the next government, whichever government comes in, it's going to be easier perhaps because it'll be,
I'll tell you what has made it easier, especially because when we're looking at foreign investment coming in. Previously, Pakistan's investment climate for foreign investors, there was a big question mark on the legal side. Because we had issues regarding Ricodic and things like that, right? So it was that if there something goes wrong, right, and then you have a conflict with the government of Pakistan, how do you resolve that?
So it's probably smoother now.
It's because the confidence is that yes, the problem with the government of Pakistan has been resolved through arbitration and now it is getting implemented. So it gives confidence to foreign investors to come in do big ticket investments and be comfortable that in case there is some misunderstanding, it can be resolved. So there was that big question mark. Which was like...
Fair enough. Let me go to Dr. Khaqan. Dr. Khaqan, what about, of course, we have seen a role of the Special Investment Facilitation Council also. In your opinion, how do you look at this change? And of course, it's going to be a continuing change, a positive change for, us in the field of business, in the field of, trying to get investment overall, and perhaps boosting investor confidence overall.
Mahrukh, second to, putting, teams together, the East Asian miracle, the situation in India, Bangladesh, China, the underlying theme was that you improved your investment to GDP ratios to levels of 25 to 35%. Pakistan's investment to GDP ratio in FY23, the last fiscal year that we finished, is 13.7%. With this kind of investment to GDP in the country, weak public investment, weak private sector investment, and weak FDI. Pakistan's FDI has not gone beyond $1.5 to $2 billion over the last 10 years. These are serious numbers that I'm talking to you. Pakistan needs to literally, follow the path of the East Asian miracle or China. the FDI would become very, very important. Local domestic investment will become very, very important. It is not that our domestic investment is not high. It is that our domestic investment is stuck in property, it is stuck in dollars, it is stuck in gold. So, deleveraging those sectors and moving on to investments in productive sectors of the economy is the real challenge. On the external side, I think SIFC can play a very, very important role in showcasing Pakistan that even if we have clogged arteries, these clogged arteries would be bypassed and the investor would be given a one window operation, and those things that stop.
Talking about investor confidence, recently we saw the Prime Minister go. Of course, we saw there have been meetings with regard to this. MOUs have been signed overall. For this to translate into actual investment, what are the chances and how do you look at it overall?
So I think signing MOUs of $25 billion in Dubai is the first signal that we are serious to do this. Now you can do your due diligence. You can look at our, both brownfield projects which are there, or, new projects if you want to set up. And some projects have also been showcased, I assume. And I assume that, Recordec, we've had an evaluation by an independent evaluator. So we know what the worth of our shares, which is 50% holding with the Barrick Gold holding the other 50%. So now these things have been put on the table. There will be much more due diligence. There would be much more areas of discussions. But let's see what in the next coming years. Again, the investment comes in terms of finance, of course. Investment comes in terms of technological transfer. That's number two. Investment comes in terms of management improvements. Let's say someone was to take over your airport, make it into a regional hub like Dubai or Hong Kong. So there are many aspects to it. I think this is a long drawn battle that we will have to find to take Pakistan from being a debt finding country to an investment driven country. Now this transition will take time.
The road may be arduous, it may be hard for us at this time, but do you think there's light at the end of the tunnel for us, as in terms of, like you said, becoming a hub for investment? Although, of course, it's a long way off.
Mahrukh, investment comes where there is macro stability, number one. Investors can bring in, take their money. We've not been able to do so, but let's see, with the building of reserves in the coming years, we are able to do so. Investment comes because Pakistan is a big market. You cannot, take that away from Pakistan. Investment comes because Pakistan offers the mines and minerals with a very, very large potential. Again, I don't quantify that potential because that may not be the best way to put it, but the potential certainly is there. Investment also comes because we have a large acreage where we can do agriculture. We can be, the food security for the Middle East. Investment comes because we have a median in age of 23. We have a youth which may not be the best educated, but it's English speaking youth. So ITES is a potential that we need to, definitely look into. Investment will also come because, there is relative calm in the country right now. And our desire and our, hope, our work ahead of us is to be a developmental state and not be a state where, we are worrying about other things, but the primacy of development is something that we have established. I think that notion has, kind of sunk. Every institution is now behind development of Pakistan. There will be many barriers, there will be many hiccups, but if we remain steadfast in this way, but also believe that the local doctors have to be employed to do the energy sector, deregulation, FBR surgery, and most importantly, create the ambience for the domestic investor to be excited to do this through the many 5.2 million SMEs to, connect them to the global value chains. And of course, believe that export is the only way out of the crisis that Pakistan is in. So let's hope for the best.
Right, let's hope for the best. Thank you, Dr. Khaqan Najeeb. Sultan Sahab, I know that you have little time, but overall, as far as this dip in the oil crisis is concerned, do you think it's going to have some effect on our economy or no?
Oil always has an effect because Pakistan is not just net importer, rather it is a major chunk is imported always. So whenever there is a dip in oil prices, we may feel bad for our Muslim brother countries from the GCC because their revenues are going down. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan it gets a breather, right?
Okay.
And whenever there's a spike in the oil price, we get negatively impacted. For example, there's this crisis in the Middle East in terms of Israel and Palestine, the whole situation, it is bad. And just we see that Houthis are attacking ships in the sea, in the Red Sea. So that kind of situation, now if that situation goes in some worse direction, which starts to impact oil prices. So that is some external shock which can come and hit us. So while we are seeing this relative stability after a very, very rough patch, but that is something external shock which again can come and impact us.
It's still a vulnerable kind of position.
It is a vulnerable position.
Fair enough. What about the IT sector? When we look at, Dr. Khaqan also mentioned overall in terms of the kind of age we are looking at, the potential of it, the policy of it overall. In terms of, are we going to see a trend in that direction? Is it going to be, it's one of those sectors that, perhaps will get a boost? How do you look at it overall?
It should get a tremendous boost because the ingredients are there. Just like Dr. Khaqan was saying, we have a population which whoever is educated does know some bit of English.
But for us to realize that potential, what do we lack in your opinion that, perhaps is not letting us realize the full potential there from this, for example, IT, considering, like you said, the ingredients are there in your words?
No, okay. One thing, the brilliance of this sector is where Pakistan will get a huge boost is that in any other sector we need government involvement or big investors getting involved. This is something which can happen with people showing enterprise on their own. So young people showing enterprise on their own. The brilliance of it is that people can learn it through YouTube. And now there's so many YouTube channels. People are teaching IT skills. They're teaching them in Urdu. They're teaching different skill sets. They're also teaching people how to sell their skills internationally. So what we are going to see, this thing is going to really explode. This thing is going to really explode in a big way. Why? Because the weaker that rupee has become, even if somebody is making $500 a month, which is nothing in international market space, that in Pakistani perspective it is huge. If somebody is making even $300, $350, that's like 100,000 rupees. So what we are seeing is that many young people, when they're graduating or even during their university era, they are switching from seeking jobs to learning these skills.
Right, fair enough.
And
because
we are going to see a lot of foreign exchange coming in.
Right, that's encouraging to hear, I think, for a lot of people in that field. Thank you so much, Sultan Ali Haider. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Khaqan Najeeb, thank you for joining us for this segment. We will be taking a short break, after which we'll come back to talk about PTI's intra-party elections and what kind of, how legally sound they are. What is the legal opinion on that? Thank you so much for staying with us. Please join us after the break. Welcome back. We have with us Hafiz Ahsaan Ahmad, who is an advocate, Supreme Court. Thank you for joining us. Sarwar, who's former head of FAFEN. Thank you for being with us. We're going to be talking generally about the elections, intra-party elections of the PTI and what kind of how sound they are legally speaking, considering, let me go to Hafiz Ahsaan. The concerns that have been raised are basically, lack of a disclosure of a voter list, absence of an election schedule announcement, and violation of the Elections Act during the intra-party polls. And of course, potential irregularities that may occur because, so overall, how do you look at these elections? In your opinion, how legally sound are they?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for inviting. There are certain mandatory provisions in the Election Act 2017 whereby first while you are enlisting as a political party you have to give the list of the office bearers, and that needs to be resubmitted to the Election Commission of Pakistan every 5 years by a political party. and if the political party who is obliged under the law to give a rotation of the election and he fails, then there is a consequence under the Election Act section 215 that the election symbol allotted by the Election Commission of Pakistan would be withheld. So these are the certain mandatory provisions, but as far as the PTI is concerned, that controversy starts since 2021. And there is direction or by a certain observation by the PTI and the Election Commission of Pakistan, and that controversy starts expanding for more than 2 years. Now sometimes they are saying that we hold the election, sometimes they are saying that there are certain lacunas by the Election Commission of Pakistan, and finally in the last month the Election Commission of Pakistan issued a verdict, and that is on the administrative side. The Election Commission of Pakistan is first responsible for the holding of a general election, then Election Commission of responsible for the certain quasi judicial sides, and this is purely the administrative functions under the Election Act that they have to take care of the intra-party election of the election of the certain parties. Now there are certain 208 sections. This is a mandatory to hold an election in a free, fair and transparent manner. This is a mandatory requirement. And then there is another issue which is very important, and that would be a key issue that will be decided by the Election Commission of Pakistan. It is a section 209. 209 gives the power to the head of the political party to submit a list within 7 days from the day of the intra-party election. And on the other side, it is the obligation of the Election Commission of Pakistan. They have to decide the application of the intra-party for issuing a certificate under section 2093 and election rule 158 of the election rule 2017 within the 7 days. Now the PTI has submitted, in pursuance of the direction of the Election Commission of Pakistan, to hold an election within 20 days. They had submitted their list of the candidates who according to them, who have unopposed during this process on the 2nd of December. Now today there is another holding, and one person came to the Election Commission of Pakistan and his request has been turned down by the Election Commission of Pakistan. Now this is the discretion, and that discretion should be a judicial by the Election Commission of Pakistan to announce on the 12th.
I want to talk more about the powers, judicial powers of the
so
Election Commission.
Let me come back. There is no issue at all.
Right,
all the political parties have on the same
Sarwar
side.
Saab, I'm going to include you in the discussion overall. I hope you were following what Hafiz Saab here is saying. Overall, in your opinion, as far as the judicial discretion of the Election Commission is concerned, you know, how do you look at what happened as far as today is concerned, and overall, in terms of, you know, what the party itself has submitted after the inter-party elections?
Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to share my views on this particular topic. I think Hafiz has said enough regarding the PTI intra-party elections from the perspective of Elections Act 2017. So therefore I will not touch upon that, but I think it's very, very important to look at intra-party elections of PTI from the context in which they have been ordered by ECP to hold intra-party elections. And to my view, I think this has, in recent history, this has not happened with any other party, because most of the time, whatever political parties did as far as the intra-party elections are concerned, the party leader would submit the list of office bearers and the Election Commission would issue the certification. That means the party is now allowed to use the symbol which they have been using before.
Hafiz Saab, as far as the Election Commission is concerned, in your opinion, as far as other parties are concerned, when an issue like this is challenged, of course, you know, Election Commission has to adjudicate on this issue. And as far as intra-party elections are concerned, you know, there were some concerns about it before, of course, in terms of holding these intra-party elections, and other political parties have fulfilled those conditions. Isn't that true?
Mahrukh, according to the Election Act 2017, the intra-party election, first it is between the members of the party, and then it is a matter between the party and the Election Commission of Pakistan. Okay. So if there is no issue with the members of a political party, then there should be no issue for the Election Commission of Pakistan.
So it doesn't come to the Election Commission.
But in that situation now, there is an issue which has been a controversy between the Election Commission of Pakistan and the PTI. And there has always been a somersault by either side. You can say first time the Election Commission of Pakistan is saying accepted the papers on the June 22 elections, and then they are saying there are certain lacunas. On the other side, they are saying it was election was held under the amended constitution, and they were not sure about it, that the election was held on the 9th June, 10th June, or the 8th June. So there is a controversy, and then they retrieved the matter, and ultimately they asked the Election Commission of Pakistan, and the Election Commission of Pakistan decided
so then,
the case.
in your opinion, I mean, at this time, what you're saying is that the way that things are provided to the Election Commission has become controversial, and you know there are
definitely there has been a lack of strategy. There has been a lack of legal strategy on the PTI
and also
side,
maybe
and always a lack of activeness by the Election Commission of Pakistan.
And also, as far as the election, in terms of lack of activeness, I mean, when you are, if there are omissions in what has been submitted to the Election Commission, then
so there are serious irregularities. And if the Election Commission of Pakistan has disclosed that these are the serious irregularities, so now what I am thinking as a legal student, now the consequence would be that the Election Commission of Pakistan will say on the 12th of December that we are not certified according to the process which is to be required under 206 of the Election Act, 208, 209 and 2010 relating to the funds. So it is not irrelevant. So
what is the ultimate? I mean,
ultimate
in
would
terms
be
of the in terms of the process of adjudication, in terms of the powers that the Election Commission has at this time. There is an appeal also?
No, there is no appeal.
There is no appeal.
There is no appeal. Okay. The first is the party head has to submit a list within 7 days from the date of the election. And simultaneously, it is a mandatory period for the Election Commission of Pakistan to decide within 7 days to issue a certificate or to make some observations. So this is not in a way that the Election Commission of Pakistan is obliged to accept the nominations of the party head according to the intra-party election. But now here is another issue. The another issue is now we are going to our general elections. And the general election schedule is going to be announced on the 14th of December or the 15th of December. And simultaneously your party, I mean the members, they will apply for their tickets, they will apply to the returning officers for submission of their nominations papers, and then the clock starts. And if in another 20 days, I mean, the Election Commission of Pakistan will not issue, and they, against the decision, will go to the high courts, and then there is a time of 15-20 days. So at the same time, before the election day, there is 20-25 days prior, you have to submit the list of the PTI candidates or any political parties, then the election symbol will be allotted. So if in that situation, it is not settled by the Election Commission of Pakistan and by the High Court at that time, because you can go in a constitutional jurisdiction because there is no review or appeal available against the order of the Election Commission of Pakistan. So now in that situation, the timing is the most important issue. The matter is not the important issue. I mean, you can make the lacunas, you can fill up the lacunas later on. But at this time, the timing is important because the schedule is announced on the 14th or 15th. Then the clock starts, the returning officers, the scrutiny of the papers, and the allotment of the election symbol by the returning officers. And if at that time the issue is not resolved, then the PTA would not be able to have election symbol in the 2024 election.
Ultimately is that they'd probably, you know, if this doesn't go the way that the PTI wants, then they don't get their bat symbol. That is what the implications of that on overall.
The implication would be on the other side. One side, there would be a criticism on the Election Commission of Pakistan that all the political parties, they are doing the same mechanism and method.
No, I mean,
and there is no
for
on
the party. I mean,
on the party would be that I mean, every party is remembered by their election symbol. So if you don't have the election symbol for the sake of any political party like the People's Party, if they don't have the symbol of the arrow, the Muslim League, PMLN, they don't have the symbol of the lion day, and the other parties like the Jamaat Islami, they don't have a Tarazu day. So that would be a setback to the supporters of a political party and a general voter as well, because in political movement, that if you are a political party contesting under a symbol, all the candidates of the country, they have one symbol. When you are contesting election in Islamabad on the PTI side or the PMLN side, you have one symbol, and the same symbol would be applied in the Quetta or in the Peshawar. But when you lose this exercise, then there will be another consequence would be that if those candidates will become on the independent sides, then there will be another big problem for any political party. They have a choice to choose any political party. So not having an election symbol for a general election for any political party, and that would be a first time. If we have a legal or the election history I mean, since 1976.
But in terms of having it challenged, have other parties been challenged on the same issues, in your opinion? If you look back at the history,
I'm telling about there is no such precedent we have. There is no such precedent like that a political party is disallowed by the Election Commission of Pakistan. They have not fulfilled the requirement of the intra-party election.
My question is not that. My question is not that whether they haven't been allowed. I'm saying, has it been challenged at all?
By the political party?
Has it been challenged with the Election Commission ever?
No. There is a one. Because there is a controversy, and the controversy starts from the 2021. If there have been an advice...
So the controversy, in fact, starts within the PTI. When it's been challenged, so that's where it sets itself apart.
There is, Mahrukh, a serious legal strategy problem with the PTI. If the controversy starts in 2021, and that continues, and there was certain correspondence, and if at that time the PTI chairman, the former PTI chairman, he was at that time the former Prime Minister of Pakistan. That controversy starts from there. Then 21 years gone, then there is a 22, then another one show cause notice, then second show cause notice. Now there is a problem from them that if they ask by the Election Commission of Pakistan to fulfill the requirement, they should have been done by the PTI.
You're saying that there is, perhaps the strategy of the PTI is
Definitely. And now the timing is more important.
The future, of course, the timing is more important, but if they have all the requisite data, if they have all the requisite steps have been followed, then it should be easy to present those.
Definitely. The intra-party election primarily is among the members of the party. And traditionally in Pakistan, there has been no election. There has always been the nominations by the leaders, by the president.
But the members of the parties have not objected.
But the members of the party had not objected, and simultaneously no one election was held by another party on the direction of Election Commission of Pakistan on certain directions. This is the first time. And now there is 20 days only, the need to fulfill the requirement. Otherwise, they had to go to the High Court. If they went to the High Court, then I'm saying that the
But that's what I'm asking. Is it open? You're saying that there is no appeal at this time. But can they go to the High Court?
The Constitution says if you don't have the remedy of the appeal before a certain statute, then there is a constitutional jurisdiction available. So the High Court is there. Then the High Court will listen definitely the matter. If the Election Commission of Pakistan will not issue any elections intra-party certificate as per requirement of section 209 subsection 3 and rule 158 of the election rules 2017.
But it will depend, of course, on the issue now, of course, is time also.
If for the sake of the Election Commission of Pakistan, simultaneously it's a constitutional body and as a regulator for a political party. And when you act as a regulator of anything, you have a mandatory provisions of law, and then you have a discretion as well. And that discretion should be exercised judicially. But if Election Commission of Pakistan thinks that the process of the Election Commission, the intra-party election, is not being followed according to section 206 and 208 and 209, then ultimately, definitely, they will again communicate his observations, and then there will be a big issue, a legal issue for the PTI, because there is a time constraints.
In your opinion, do you see that it landing in High Court?
I think what if the Election Commission of Pakistan is satisfied about, because there is a decision on the 21st, and then they hold the election on the 2nd, and if there was no issue with the Election Commission of Pakistan, so the 12th of December would not be a date, and they will issue that we are satisfied as per section 2093. But I think there would be a legal challenges for the PTI on the 12th of December.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for being with us. Hafiz Ahsaan Ahmad, thank you for joining us today. Of course, as far as the PTI as a party is concerned, we will know after the decision of the Election Commission what happens in that regard. And of course, there is High Court is still, as a remedy, is still open. Of course, the issue of time again is something like we spoke about with Hafiz Sahab here, that may become an issue for the PTI as a political party. Of course, we'll know more closer to the 12th. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.